Snipers, you have to see what's happening in the cryptocurrency market this Tuesday as we are getting a clear picture as to what Bitcoin wants to do. Now that we've seen Bitcoin break 30,000 US dollars, notice how on the 4-hour chart today, we have four full 4-hour candles below the $30,000 level. And remember, for those tuned into the Snipers channel, we've been monitoring Bitcoin since the 19th of May when we initially tested 30,000. And on the 6-hour chart, we did see a lot of volume come in, more than any amount of sell pressure that we've seen over the last few months at that $30,000 level, but we didn't see that on the 4-hour chart. The 240-minute chart, which is an extremely popular chart, didn't show the volume. And institutions, they love to hide their moves in different time frames, not on the time frames that are more popular with traders, like the 240-minute chart. And remember when Bitcoin on the 22nd of June came down and did see a lot of 4-hour volume come in, and that was the second time that we came below 30,000 and we saw the consolidation back above 34,788. And I said to you guys that, are the institutions hiding their volume in the 6-hour chart? When we initially tested 30,000, we knew there was volume there. When we came down a second time, there was volume. But this time, on the 22nd of June, we actually saw it on the 4-hour chart. And that was a sign that since they finally imprinted their volume here, was that to trick, trap, and frustrate crew, bringing the price back up to then take it down one last time. We talked about that scenario, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And here's the problem that I'm seeing on the micro time frames, because everything morphs from the smaller time frames into the larger time frames. There's no more volume here below 30,000. Where's the volume at? Look at this sell pressure. That's a major puzzle piece. Not a surprise for those tuned into the Snipers channel. All of our predictions have been extremely accurate, as we have been over the last 3 years on this channel. And so I want to talk about what's happening to Bitcoin, because this is an extremely critical time with 4 full 4-hour candles right now below 30,000 US dollars. Guess what's happening to Ethereum? We're struggling to maintain this 1760 support, exactly as we talked about yesterday. We came down for a 4th time to knock on this support level. Here's the problem that I'm seeing, and this is going to be the main emphasis of this video. Because we are still taking the ladder down, the lower we get in price level before taking the elevator, the more severe the elevator or the downside scenario is going to be. So are we going to have to now adjust our potential targets of downside for some of these altcoins like Ethereum, for example, because we're not seeing Ethereum show any reaction at 1760, still taking the ladder down? That means we could potentially see even a more severe scenario to the downside if we keep coming down to these lower levels without taking the elevator. At some point or another, we're going to have to take the elevator like the S&P 500 did 2 days ago, right? So here's what I want to talk about today. Of course, with Ethereum right now, we are seeing a little bit of some support here at 1760, but when you're having a cup of coffee at an important level, that typically means it's not the final destination. Are we going to see this continue to the downside? That's on the table. If this was the final destination, what typically happens here, I'll show you an example. When 1760 was the final destination on the 23rd of May, you get to the level and you immediately turn back around if it's a final destination. But when you're having a cup of coffee like this, it typically means it's not the final destination. So are we going to be seeing further downside? That might be on the table. Do we need to adjust our potential entries for some of these altcoins like Ethereum? Well, that's certainly on the table. As Bruce Lee likes to say, be nimble, be like water, be adaptable. That's the key to success in this market. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart also not showing much of anything at this point. We're really just consolidating, and that is actually across the board for not just the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, but the other evolving parts in the cryptocurrency market, like the total cryptocurrency market cap chart. We've yet to make any further lows. Others dominance, camping out the 200-day moving average. Bitcoin dominance, camping out at the 150 period moving average. These are all revolving parts, and we're going to talk about what these mean. The DXY still pushing up, looking like it wants to head towards 93.82. The S&P 500 is seeing a relief rally today, but are we going to be able to get above the previous weekly open, or is this going to be a rejection? That's certainly on the table as well. We're going to talk about the traditional markets and the effects that this will have on the cryptocurrency market, as we always do, one of the unique things on our channel. But first, let's talk about Bitcoin, and I'm going to throw a little puzzle piece at the end of this video, which is going to be the gold to Bitcoin chart. That's how we predicted the top of this market, and I'm going to talk about what I'm seeing in that chart. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. Remember to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. We want to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. We got to get the word out there, and we got to beat that YouTube algorithm. We're at 45,000 subscribers. So now that we're at 30,000 and it's not showing volume, I'm going to take it off the chart. And that's why it was in white and not in red, because red is our major support and resistance levels, not the white lines. The white line that was at 30,000 was only there because it was an area of interest, as we've seen volume and reactions at that level. But now that we're not seeing volume here, we have to pull the curtain back and just look at it for what it is. The range that we're in still takes us to 25,880. The lower that Bitcoin goes without taking the elevator, the more severe the downside scenario could be. So here's the thing. This could play out in several different ways, but I'm going to first address the upside scenario. On the weekly chart, we have this 50-week moving average. It's the first full weekly candle fully below the 50-week moving average, and this is a puzzle piece. In order for us to have any sort of a rescue operation for Bitcoin, we need to get above this 50-week moving average sitting at 32,200. Until and if we get above 32,200, then we have to expect downside for Bitcoin. That would also put us above the weekly open. So that's certainly a confirmation right now. If we want to assume any further upside above 32,300, we can start talking about a different game plan. But until then, if we continue to take the ladder down here, we have to realize that 28,000 is a structural support level that would still keep us inside of this flag. So we can come and form a lower low. But the problem with that is it wouldn't take us out of this consolidation. So now that the bears have brought us below 30,000, which is not a surprise, we assumed this was going to happen based on the hints we were getting on the volume, as I talked about from the start of this video. They only wanted to show the volume here on the 22nd of June. They didn't show it here on the initial test of 30,000, and this was a huge puzzle piece that maybe it was the trick, trap, and frustrate crew that wanted to bring price down one more time, fooling traders thinking that there was volume here and that this was the end of it. That's exactly what's happening right now, but now we're not seeing volume at 30,000 or below it. So here's what I'm looking at. 28,000 is the next structural support. If we take the ladder all the way down to 28,000, there is a high likelihood we could see that wick to 20,000 for Bitcoin. That would not be the best case scenario. And I'm just going to throw this out there. If we were to look at this chart and invert it, right? You get different perspective. It'll make you think a little bit differently. Notice how it really looks like Bitcoin has a pocket up here that it could certainly come and test. If we were to just look at this chart for what it is, notice how on the weekly chart, we have this pocket here where the 100-week moving average sits. And when we invert this chart, looks like a very strong cup and handle formation. Would it be surprising for Bitcoin, now that we're above this 50-week moving average, this is just an inverted chart, to come up and test this pocket here at 20,000 where the 100-week moving average sits? I don't think that's off the table at this point, especially if we keep taking the ladder inside of this range below 30,000. This is certainly on the table, right? So this is a very big area of interest for me. There's a lot of confluence, a lot of major levels here. And when you invert the chart, it really starts giving you a clear picture of what's happening. And when we look at the gold to Bitcoin chart, I know I was going to throw it in at the end of the video, but I might as well just put it up. Notice how if we were to uninvert this chart, we have an ascending triangle forming here. Now, this red line at 65.76 is the 2017 bottom of gold against Bitcoin, right? This is another way to look at Bitcoin's value against another hard asset versus looking at it against a fiat currency. Notice how this was the 2017 bottom, and that is the exact way that we actually predicted the top for Bitcoin. We knew that once we crossed this major level, we were monitoring this chart, and when we started to come up getting close to this 50-day moving average. This is when we started saying Bitcoin's going to top here in April, and that's exactly what happened. As soon as we crossed above this 50-day moving average, we started talking about a rescue operation, and that turned into the top for Bitcoin. Now we have this ascending triangle. This is an interesting puzzle piece. You tune into Bloomberg, they're trying to change the narrative, saying that Bitcoin is not a storage of value anymore. The energy consumption is too high, whatever they want to say. Are they changing the storyline to see this chart, gold against Bitcoin, break out back above the 2017 levels? That would be extremely surprising for somebody like me, but markets love to do what traders don't think it's going to do. And so this is on the table right now. This breaking out would be bad for Bitcoin, of course. That means that gold is strengthening against Bitcoin. Gold is actually not doing much. We're not going to look at it today, but that's actually not a good thing, because if it's just consolidating, showing strength while a DXY is pushing up, it shows that institutions are hedging away from traditional assets, possibly even cryptocurrencies. So we know the upside. We get above 32,300, then we can start talking about upside scenarios. But for the downside, I maintain my thesis. 28,000 is a structural support, but I'm not expecting that to be where we stop. I think 25,880 becomes a lot more likely right now. The fact of the matter is we don't see any volume, so I think that we could certainly see a wick potentially towards that $20,000 level. It is on the table as an umpire. And because we're starting to see this unfold, we have to be like water and adapt when we're looking at altcoins. So Ethereum coming back below 1760, we knew this was going to happen. We're already having a cup of coffee here, indicating to me that it's potentially not the final destination. And so here's the thing. Ethereum is a lot more volatile than Bitcoin. So let's assume that Bitcoin does get to 20,000. Let's just assume it's on the table. So why not look at what would happen here? We're talking about a 30% downside. So if Ethereum is more volatile, let's expect more than a 30% push to the downside if Bitcoin tests 20,000, right? We just have to put that on the table. Well, if that's the case, we're looking at price levels below the previous all-time high now. Just 30% takes us to 1,200, but if it's a more volatile asset, will it see 50 to 60% downside? That might be on the table. So here's what I'm looking at now. We're so close to this previous all-time high. A lot of people say that, and I used to say this all the time, once you break an all-time high, it's typically very rare that you come and retest it. That stands true for Bitcoin right now. For Ethereum, it's a different asset. It's a more volatile asset. I think that we have to be a little bit more cautious with Ethereum. If we don't see Bitcoin really make its move yet, Ethereum is just going to want to camp out here at 1760. But if Bitcoin makes a move, there is a potential we get below 1440. And if that's the case, then I don't want my entries anywhere near that level. I'm going to be looking at this pocket from 1,100 to 900 US dollars. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but the market does what we least expect it to do. So I just wanted to throw that out there today. We might have to start looking at further targets to the downside when it comes to the elevator being taken. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have dollar cost averaged entries within these ranges. Anything below 1760 is a great entry. I believe we'll be above 2,000 for sure. We have the London hard fork here at August 4th coming up. I believe into the end of this year, we'll certainly be way above 2,000 for Ethereum. So that's what I'm monitoring. That's kind of the emphasis of this video, as I mentioned earlier. I want you guys to realize that, as we see this unfold more and more, we have to adjust our game plan. Ethereum to Bitcoin chart not showing much strength right now. We're not getting much hints from the revolving parts. They're still kind of stagnant. Others' dominance is what I'm really monitoring here at this 200-day moving average. If we break below this, that's a puzzle piece. But so far, we still can assume this is a bullish flag that could potentially continue further up. Garden variety market behavior says that when you're breaking a multi-year resistance like we are here at 12%, that it's going to act as support, and we should see a reaction. So that's what I'm watching here. I don't know what Bitcoin is going to do, whether it goes up and down. It doesn't matter. The others' dominance chart will act in its own way. And so this is something we want to monitor when the move happens. And then we look into traditional markets. I'm going to quickly talk about the DXY. We're seeing another candle high today, breaching all of the other candles over the last few weeks, a high of 93.17. It looks like it wants to head towards 93.82. The closer we get to 93.82, the better it's going to be, because that's going to mean we're seeing the worst of what we're seeing so far. So right now, though, on the way to this level, this tells me that we're going to see a volatile week and a lot of swings in both directions. And that's clearly showing here with the S&P 500 seeing this massive downside yesterday just to only recover back up above the weekly and monthly open today. But we haven't gotten above the previous weekly open. We can't say that this is a reversal. Could be like what happened to oil, where we came up, we topped out, we came back up, we got back above the monthly and weekly open, but then we continued back down, actually now at the 100-day moving average. That could happen here. The S&P 500, remember, commodities are a leading indicator. Are we just coming up to do what oil did to come back down at least towards this 100-day moving average? If that's the case, that would assume DXY is going up. That means S&P comes down, crypto might also come down. So we want to watch that because US oil is that leading indicator. I already covered gold to Bitcoin. And with that, I appreciate each and every one of you snipers tuning into the channel. I know this was a little bit of a long video, but I wanted to go over everything that was on the table. Let's pick a winner from our video yesterday to win Principles by Ray Dalio. If you want to win this book, comment below and smash the like button. You'll have a chance to win. Daniel Abdelnour says, the only person I take serious on YouTube. Thanks, brother, for all your great videos. Appreciate the kind words, Daniel. That means a lot. Send me a message on Instagram. You want a book. And with that, thank you all for tuning in today. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Let's see what happens. I can't wait to cover it. And until next time, snipers.